We want to bring in criminal defense attorney and former federal prosecutor David Katz on this. David, thanks for joining us this evening.
Great to be with you.
Let's talk about these two lawsuits, one of them in California, the other filed in Texas. They focused on the gunman and the companies that he regularly interacted with leading up to this shooting. So in your opinion, do you think they'll be successful going after Meta, the gun manufacturer, and the video game company?
Yes, I think they're well taken. You know, there's a limitation passed by Congress in federal court, but I think that these attorneys have steered clear around the prohibited areas that you cannot sue on. And I think that they've chosen some areas which should be fruitful. As you reported, they've already collected $2 million.
You know, makers of violent video games have survived previous efforts to link them to real-world violence. What kind of hurdles will these new cases have to overcome?
Well, I think as a class action, they'll have to show that they were injured in a way that's common to the class, and that they don't have to pursue individual lawsuits. If you have to pursue an individual lawsuit, that makes it harder to have a large recovery. That makes fewer attorneys who are willing to take on the case. But I think that they ought to succeed as a class action. I think that they're, especially, you know, everyone has an opinion about this case, and the fact that they can tie it in to the weapon that was, promoted in the games. I think that they're moving in the right direction, and probably I think this case will settle. It's too soon to tell, but I think that these game manufacturers would have a strong interest in settling this case and not repeating this kind of conduct in the future that would make them liable.
Each company, the lawsuit claims, took part in, quote, grooming this teenager to become a school shooter. Should and can these companies be held liable for his actions?
Well, grooming is a very argumentative term, isn't it? So I think that is for the press releases. But we'll have to see in court, how close this encouragement, of the actions were. But I mean, they start with the groundswell of horror that people have over this shooting, and in these cases that are very sympathetic. They often produce large awards, and they could produce a truly huge award. And I think that's what the manufacturers have to look out for. And I think that they have a strong interest in trying to settle and, as I say, not repeat this sort of conduct in the future.
Yeah, it seems like these Uvalde families are really banding together and mobilizing in an incredible way. They're trying to affect change in multiple areas as much as they can. And I want to ask about this other lawsuit filed by the families as well against nearly 100 Texas state police officers over their slow response to this shooting. And we saw this heartbreaking delay where they were standing outside, commanded to wait, even though they knew what room the shooter was in, and he continued to inflict more damage. What precedents does this set? Because there is a chain of command for a reason within the ranks of police officers. Does this mean that officers in the future should disobey direct orders and go in and neutralize a shooter if they think they can?
Well, Natasha, we've had this expression in America to be a keystone cop, and to be an Uvalde responder is now become that kind of an insult. And so while they might have gotten that command, I think, yes, in this situation, after the person in charge just didn't give the order to go in, I think that there was, under their training, I think they knew they needed to respond. And, a lot of people just think it was like cowardice. I mean, really. And that's an awful thing. And, we should have respect for our police officers and first responders, but certainly not in this situation. It has this patina or look of just cowardice. And yes, it's very dangerous to be a police officer or firefighter in these kinds of situations, but we rely on the fact that, we pay a good salary, we have good benefits, and when the moment comes, these people have to go in. And I just think that this was shameful, that they didn't go in. And if you say that it's countermanding the decision not to go in, yes, I think there does become a point when they would have been reasonable in, going with their instinct and their training, and yes, disobeying the direct order. If the direct order was don't go in, don't go in, and it went on for almost an hour, didn't it?
I believe 70 minutes, closer to, yeah. All right, David Katz, really appreciate the context and insight here. Criminal defense attorney, appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.